without sharing my screen, I'm going to just go through the 5 steps. And I'm open to amending these because there's no finite science behind it. It's just my own observation. The first thing is to establish rapport and build consensus and vision. Okay, it's a seller, buyer, it doesn't matter, it's always the same. Okay, you can be the best qualified person, but if you can't establish rapport and building consensus is being on the same page with what's going to happen, and then share a vision to, hey, here's where we're going to land. Okay, you should speak with your client about motivation, building consensus, and having a common vision. The second thing is to clearly set expectations. Okay, and I think we have we assume a lot, and sometimes we talk in real estate language instead of talking in a language that our clients will best understand. The first step is in setting expectations for the process is, from me, a million spreadsheet guy is reviewing the data, right? And establish a winning strategy, select complementary professionals that are going to make the process easier. We need to negotiate a contract, hire an attorney in most cases, and once an offer is accepted, we need to let them know what the path is. And I'm going to drop off the sheet for a second and come back. So is there anybody on the call who can see that they maybe cut some corners and assume that people know what's happening without clearly telling them because we've been doing this for so long? Anybody want to admit that that might be happening? Nobody.
I think you learn that stuff after a while, try to communicate with your clients. Have conversations that can communicate with them completely so that they understand layman's terms. I never really never got into doing anything complicated with my owners or with my buyers or my clients even. You always try to keep it simple and explain to them a procedure that that's going to take place. I put together a short little video so I can send it to them, explaining to them the process of buying a house, process of selling a house. So that kind of helps.
Now, Ron, when somebody's more comfortable with the process, are they going to be more committed? Are they going to be more likely to get deals done than not?
Absolutely, yes.
So I think if you have clients that have fear in the back of their head, okay, what's going to happen is they're going to act irrationally because they have a certain element of fear that doesn't need to be there for the process. So if we can clearly communicate to them exactly how the process goes, and even by using terms like, let's assume, Ron, we get an offer accepted in the first 2 weeks of it being on the market. What I would recommend is that you have an attorney selected ahead of time so that we're not scrambling to have that process add more stress. Does that make sense to you, Ron?
Yeah, it does.
And if we're buying, right, if we're a buyer, maybe what we should do is we should shop for a home inspector before we even find the house, right? We're as an industry, we generally get pre-qualified, select our lender, but we don't select the attorney we're going to use until we make an offer. We don't select the home inspector until, oh my God, we're out of attorney review. And some of these things are New Jersey. I apologize to our Florida team, but we're out of attorney review. Now we only have 10 days to get the home inspection done. I need to panic and choose an inspector. So those things, if we have an ounce of prevention, I think that it makes the transaction less stressful and more likely to come together. Agree?
Agree.
Yep.
Yeah, you can give them steps. That's what I usually do, and I try to explain that to my some of my agents, is that they give them a printout or send them a short little video of what they need to do. Most of the time, up down here is the title company does. We don't usually use attorneys, but we use title companies, and usually the buyer. When I tell them they have to do an inspection within some amount of time, the appraisal, not to buy anything when they're trying to get a mortgage, they'll live conservatively until after you close. So there's a list of things that I always kind of prepare them to do. And it's a list that I give them either in writing or into a short video. But usually they depend on us to find them an inspector, find them a closing companies. They have no clue.
And Ron, how about even the demeanor and the way that you present the facts and the process to them? Like if you are like high strung and, oh my God, we got to do all these things like you're going to add anxiety to the process. If you're confident and concise, it makes the process less stressful, and less stress means more likely to succeed. Less stress means more rational decision making. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Like how many I'm going to just Ron, what percentage of clients use an attorney in Florida when they sell a house?
Whew, so a very low percentage, very
All
low.
right, I'm going to skip you. I'm going to ask Mr. Garber, when you take a listing, or an agent takes a listing in one of your offices, do you think they have the attorney for selling the property identified at that time, or sometimes do they flurry to find it when an offer is received?
Okay, so that's kind of like a two-part answer, because for me, my clients would have everything prepared and laid out. The first thing I do when I sit down with them is I walk them through the process, because I want to try and manage their expectations so nothing gets them excited during the transaction, so that they feel that it's a better experience, and that's the goal. Even from the point that I say to them, you know, when we're going to attorney review, you're going to get a letter, and the first paragraph is going to say, I'm canceling the contract. Keep reading, okay? Because they're not really canceling the contract. What they're doing is they're telling you that, but with the following exceptions, it would be okay. You know, very early on in my career, I didn't say that to a client, and they called me up screaming, why is the attorney canceling the contract? So from then on, I make it a point of pointing out ahead of time what people, you know, what they should expect, and it works very smoothly.
So there's a vote for preparation now. Robert, if you were to take a look at all the listings that come in and you were to read the tracking form, how many of them clearly have identified who the attorney is going to be representing the seller?
I would say less than 50%.
Less than half. And, you know, if you're not prepared to transact, okay, it's going to be more anxiety, and it's going to be less likely to come together. And some of the best agents I've seen, when they present an offer to a seller, like they have everything identified, saying, hey, I'm pleased to present this offer. They're already pre-approved by Bruce Oliver. They've reviewed all their credit documents. Their attorney will be, you know, they're flexible with the closing date, or they prefer this closing date. They've already selected an inspector. As soon as we get done, we'd like to, you know, and when you look at that, you're just like, wow, this is going to be an easy transaction. When you have to call the agent when the offer is accepted and say, you know, who's your buyer using as an attorney? You know what, they're still trying to reach this one attorney. We'll get back to you by tomorrow. And has anybody in New Jersey in the past 3 months accepted an offer, and it's not until the third day that you hear from the buyer what attorney they're using? Anybody had that experience? Because I'm going to tell you, I had that twice in the past 3 months, helping our agents negotiate offers when they were on vacation, where I'm talking to the agent bringing us the buyer, and they're like, oh, they're choosing between two attorneys. We don't know who. I'm like, this is already the second day of attorney review. I wanted my client to get out of attorney review the day one, but they haven't even picked an attorney. So this adds stress, and this makes the transactions a lot less likely to go through. And you know, you might sit there and say, wow, this is super obvious, but you know, it's obvious maybe, but if you don't take action upon it, then it means nothing, right? The third step, which is probably the step most of us focus on, is like finding the property that meets the buyer's needs, or if it's a seller, it's presenting the property right, doing the right photography, pictures, pricing. I think that's the part that we're really good at. If we slant this towards a buyer side, let me see if I can share now. We slant this towards like a buyer side, because I think we still have more challenges getting our buyers' offers accepted across the board, in my opinion, than we do, getting listings under contract. So prepare for the offer, okay? Review how the market performs. If somebody says to you, my wife and I, we really like this property, we want to make an offer. The question is, how do you respond then? How do you respond when somebody says, I'm interested, I'd like to make an offer? And Ron, I'm going to put you on the spot, because I know Shantae and John Marie were just raving about your scripting class. So I just want to see how you would respond to that buyer that says, hey, Ron, we love this. Where do we start with an offer? You're on mute.
Okay, well, that's a loaded question. So, first of all, they won't get in my car. I won't meet them anywhere near a property unless I have them pre-approved through my mortgage person first. Second of all, so when I do find a property, I already have a pre-approval letter.
Let's assume, Ron, let's assume let's assume your client's pre-approved for $550 and this property is on the market for $475. And they say, hey, we're interested, it's been on the market for 4 days. Ron, what do we do? How do we, we don't want to overpay, but we want to make sure we get it. How do we go about it?
I tell them they have to be very aggressive in their offer, and they need to, I'll show them the comparable sales, find out how much cash they have, because if it underappraises or doesn't appraise at the price that we come in at, they have enough cash to pay the difference. So I kind of educate them a little bit about that. But I tell them to be very aggressive in this kind of a market. So if a property is listed for $450, I will probably tell them that they should, come in over asking price. Now, a lot of times when I say that, they'll say, well, how much? And that's a good question. I don't like to stick my neck out, but I would probably tell them, maybe 10,000, 15,000, 20,000.
So Ron, what if we got in the habit of doing 15 minutes of homework, right? And let's just say that there's in Boca Raton, in a particular zip code, there's 7 other houses that have sold recently, and the market is hot. And if you say you need to bid aggressively, I just think that creates anxiety. And I'm telling you this out of contribution, not criticism.
I think most buyers know, when know that it's a crazy market before they even get into buying. So I think they know, and I don't think you really have to scare them by that. But if they say to me, we like this, probably like to make an offer. I would, that question, I would say to them, okay, let's go do the comps. Let's go to my office. We'll look at the comps. And then what we'll do is we'll make an offer based on that. So now, if I see the comps are at 475 as the highest sale, or 500, I'm going to tell them that they probably need to be more aggressive on their offer. And I usually don't have any pushback from that. They'll just ask me how much more. Like we had one, excuse me, we had one the other day. She said to us, well, Ryan's buyer, she says, well, we really want this property, so tell us what we need to do. So Ryan says, well, you have to make them an offer above list price. And so Ryan asked me, well, Dad, what do I say? And I said, well, ask them how much more do they want to make an offer. They came up with a number which I thought was reasonable, which is, I think was $8,000 or $9,000 over asking price. So that's what we did. We didn't get the property, unfortunately, but we came in over this price. So I think buyers, like to your question, I think buyers pretty much know the market. That's my guess.
So 24 minutes or 25 minutes into this recording, you might want to come back to this part, because the way I would address it, and I'm not saying I'm the only way, But I would say to them, look, you know, what I did, Ron, is I took an analysis of homes, and if you get into the nitty gritty, you wind up creating more stress. But I said, the last 7 homes that sold in the first 10 days on the market sold for an average of 7.2% above ask, or 3.1% above ask price, right? Then I would look back and I'd say, you know, Ron, you know, based on, you know, your research and looking at several homes, where does this house fit on a scale of 1 to 10? And I asked them that question. You know, if it's 2 people, the husband and wife might be, you know, talking, saying, hey, you know, I think it's an 8.5. I think it's a 9. And I'd go back to them and say, you know, there's no perfect 10s in real estate. There's always some shortcoming in every piece of property. So a 9 is almost a 10. So if this is really a 10 for you, where do you think we need to make an offer based upon where other sales occurred? You know, they usually say, we want to make sure we bid at least the average what other ones have gone for. So that's 3.2% above the ask price. And this ask price is $475. So that would be 14,500 over if we were to use the average. You know, what do you think we should do as far as making an offer? Because when you say, and Ron, you know I love you, and I'm telling you this out of complete contribution. When you say we need to bid aggressively, people feel like that might even feel like I need to overpay, aggressive overpay, right? When you're giving them data, the outcome is still the same, but the emotional feeling is different. Does that make any sense?
No, I get it. I get it. I'm a street guy, man. I kind of tell them like it is, but you're more analytically correct. So going that route, we get into percentages. It's a good approach. It's a good approach.
I want to make this observation, Ron. Like, some people who are really good in sales and like they can build rapport and trust without even having a strategy, it just occurs naturally. You know, I think that you're one of those people that really have that ability to build connection, but it's hard to teach that. In other words, it's hard to put that into a process and have people do it. And I found, even though you're really good at that, maybe sometimes applying some of these techniques to the talent that you have might also make the process a little bit easier. And it might also identify somebody who says, I'm not going to pay, you know, 18,000 over for this house if that's what they're going for. And to be honest with you, rather than make a bad offer and have them lose 3 or 4 properties, I'd rather not enter into the process, right? Because if you know that there's if you know there's a 3% chance that this is going to get done, why even bother with it, right? I mean, you're going to challenge the relationship you built with your client, and the deal is ultimately not going to get put together, in my opinion.
That's true. That could happen.
So
Rob,
good.
I'm sorry, it's Janet. I was just saying, Rob, I think that's a great point. I use that strategy for my buyers as well. And Ron, one thing that you mentioned, which I think that this also helps with, when I'm looking at the data in that way, I also start to prepare them for what may be the appraisal gap. And I think you're doing a great thing by telling them they need some cash, but again, I think that can be scary. So I give them the data, we come to what they think the offer they believe they can have, and we also have a mindset of what the appraisal gap is going to be. And in this market, we're regularly waiving appraisal. For my buyers, I usually try to do a max, and that's just based on what they can afford to do. And that data just really helps us all to have a conversation and come to that offer together, so that there's no fear, and there's no, Janet, you told me to do that, and I either underpaid, overpaid, or now I have an appraisal gap that I can't even meet. So everything's in writing. We all know what we're working towards, and we've all kind of stacked hands with the data, and we move forward.
So that was very eloquently said. And I think that, you know, both of your contributions are really valid to what we're doing. I want to even go a level deeper. And I'm going to ask you this, Janet. When you start working with a buyer, do you send them or give them a printed out copy of the sales contract in advance so that they can start to take a look at what it will be?
Rob, honestly, I haven't done that. I do that with my sellers, obviously, but I haven't done that with my buyers. That's a good point.
I mean, I think like if you want to prepare somebody for less stress, because you know what our industry normally does, we run around and we have a lot of talented colleagues, and there's a lot, you know, everybody here on this call is eminently qualified to understand real estate. But what would happen if, you know, we gave them a copy of the contract and said, look, you know, in a week or two when we make an offer, this is going to be the standard form that we're going to use. Once we make this offer, it's going to go to an attorney. You're going to have an attorney, and I'm talking to New Jersey, Ron, so and everybody in Florida, I apologize for that part, but you understand the concept. Whatever the concept is, you want to go through it. You're going to engage an attorney. The buyer is going to engage an attorney. When their attorney reviews the contract, they're going to say, I disapprove of it. However, I would approve it with these 3 changes. That's common. So then when they get that, to Robert Garver's point, they're not going to be freaked out, right? And if they have the contract ahead of time, I would probably say if 80% of the people that I'm working with are buyers, I would even fill in all the information. I'd put their information and say, look, when we do this, see these 5 highlighted parts, the purchase price, the address, the appraisal gap, you're going to know what the debt we're putting down, 5%, we're putting down 20%, whatever things that you're going to look at, you're going to put it in there and say, hey, our home inspection is going to be only for major mechanical, structural, environmental, whatever you're doing. Then when they do it, they feel at ease, because that's another piece that's not stressful, you know, and you're not asked to make all these decisions.
Agree. I definitely talk my buyers through that. I just think sometimes so much in writing can be a little overwhelming for them, and our contracts are pretty long. I wish they were just 1 page long. But I think it's helpful to have them look at it in advance, because honestly, what I find, I don't know anyone else, but because our offers are sent through electronically, I tell my clients, and I'll pause and say that I have a lot of pride that they trust me, but I also believe that when they get that electronic offer, they're just like, initial sign, initial sign, initial sign. I'm like, can you look at it on a computer and read through? And if you have any questions, you know, ask the questions. And I do try to go through some of the major points, but still encourage them to read it. I don't think most of my buyers even read the contract by the time we're at that stage, to be fully honest.
Is there anybody that has a regular practice of sending the contract out, you know, at the onset of a relationship?
I don't like sending contracts to anybody.
Robert, what are your thoughts about doing that, Robert?
I don't do it. My feeling is that, you know, my clients are not attorneys. And if they suddenly get this contract that's, you know, 14 pages long, that will freak them out. I prefer to walk them through it when we're writing it up and point out, you know, the salient points to them and ensure them that they're going to have an attorney, a real estate attorney, who does this for a living, who's going to go through the contract with them and answer any questions that they might have.
Agree.
Agree that.
So, you know, maybe if we engage a buyer, right, that we feel like is serious and motivated, we're working time on, what percentage of those people do you think are going to transact with us? And I'm gonna, I'll just, maybe I'll ask Janet, like if you're working with somebody, you're like, hey, these people really need to buy, they're pre-approved, they're ready to go. What percentage of them ultimately do business with you?
Excuse me, Rob, before you move on to that, could I just make a point as to the earlier part of the discussion about, you know, when they say to you, we want to make an offer, and you know, what's the process we follow then too? The thing that we didn't mention that I think is really important is I reach out to the listing agent and I find out if there's anything that the seller is looking for in particular. Like, yeah, I want to sell my house, but I'd really like to stay in the house for the next 5 months, so that I can put that in my buyer's offer that we're okay with that, or we'll do a use and occupancy agreement or whatever, you know, and any other point that I think would make the seller feel really good that we know what they want and we're willing to do what we can to help.
You know, that's a great point. because I'm glad you mentioned that. Because what happens when what I do is I get them in the office and I'll get on the speakerphone and call the listing agent, excuse me, so they can actually hear the response of the questions that I asked the listing agent. So they know that I'm not trying to trick them into buying the property at whatever price we're looking at. So if I call the listing agent, I'll say, listen, you're asking $450. Do you guys have any offers on it now? Yeah, we do. We have a couple offers. Okay, over list price. Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. They'll tell you to make the highest and best. But a lot of times buyers, when they hear that coming from the listing agent, won't hold you accountable because they feel more comfortable that we're all being honest here. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that, Rob.
I'm torn between whether or not I like doing that in front of a client. Anybody have any thoughts on that? I mean, it is transparent. It's consistent with like being, fully transparent. Robert, what's your thought on that?
I kind of like to do it one-on-one, just me with the listing agent. And then I can turn to my client and say, and add those points as part of the conversation that just points out to them that I've done my research for them to try and help them be successful in presenting a winning offer.
I mean, if I was a listing agent and I knew that you had the clients on the phone, I'd be a little turned off.
Yes.
But I do like the transparency. So that's the only reason why I'm torn between the two strategies. But you've either Ron or Robert, I don't know who initially brought this up, but one of the things that I think is also important is to talk about, how to not only how do properties behave in certain markets, but if you have a listing agent that's notoriously underpricing properties to get like auction style bidding, it would be noteworthy to say, hey, Ron, on average, homes in this zip code in Boca are selling for, 3.9% above. However, Rob Garver, who does a lot of business, in Boca and the area, his listings sell for about 8.5% above, right? And then they'd be like, oh, why would that be? And you could say, hey, Robert he employs the strategy of getting an auction style process. So that doesn't mean the house isn't worth it or you're overpaying. It just means that he prices it more aggressively. So when they say, how do you think you should bid? Well, based upon how the market performs and how Robert prices his homes, it would seem like you'd want to be at the 7.2% above asking price to be competitive, but that's ultimately your decision. And it just gives, I think it gives some framework on which to build. And although most people aren't analytical, they're emotional when they buy a house, having an analytical foundation for their emotional decision will lead to, I think, more rational bidding and more positive outcomes. Does that make sense?
100%.
Rob, I even think that it's more professional when you show that information that you just said about, if you have a person that's auction style compared to all these other agents that are out there, so that this way you're letting your customer know, what's going on in the market with these different players.
But and Anthony, I think very few people, will segment the data to the point of relevance. Because if I took all the properties in Boca in a particular zip code that sold, the ones that have sold, some of them, even in a good market, are overpriced, right? Some of them that are put on the market are already, sold in advance and they just sell for the exact list price. So I always eliminate those because that sale has obviously been agreed upon before it goes on the market, like 0 days on the market. I'm sure we see those in Florida, just like New Jersey. That just means that, Anthony Lambiasi has a buyer for it. He's putting it on the MLS just to put a comp on there and show that it sold for that amount. But the days on market's irrelevant. So consumers have a lot of data at their fingertip through Zillow and all these other sites. Our value is interpreting the data and giving them the process. And by, not telling them, homes in this zip code in Boca Raton are going for, 1.2% above ask. Well, that factors in the homes that have been on the market for 90 days with 3 price cuts. If you have a property that just came on the market, the only relevant comps are other properties that have sold in the first 5 to 7 days on the market. Does that make sense? And it's a small extra step to give that extra data that will empower your clients to make the right decision on how they want to proceed. And if you give them the information, they decide, hey, the average is 6.1% above, we only want to pay 2% above. If it doesn't get accepted, the next time you do that, if they're rational, I think that they're going to get the picture, right? And we're not telling them what to do. We're giving them options based upon, data. And we're explaining the process to them so anxiety doesn't interfere with a rational decision-making process.
So,
Does that make sense?
yeah, Rob, this is Jim. Totally agree with the data and educating the consumer when we're working with them. For me, I'll take the time and I'll let them know right in front of them. Hey, let me see what the agent, their history, and I'll pull up some of their information and see that on average, and you said it earlier, are they going 3% off, 5%? Are they 3% above? It's so easy to just pull the stats. It only takes a second. And just to explain to them, on average, what I see with this particular agent is they list at 100%, at a price, and then they sell on average at 97%, or in this market, 103%. So it's good to do that for me in front of the client. It's just showing them that we're taking the time and looking out for their best interest.
And I would bet, Jim, that there's less than 10% of the agents that do what you're doing there, and it's not that hard. Would you your gut tell you that less than?
Oh yeah, and one of the ones I just closed, I explained to the buyer, hey, by the way, she's a brand new agent. This is her first transaction. So I'm going to help probably walk her through the process, but I got to be careful because I got to walk her through it, but I don't want to insult her either. But I look at the history, is it an experienced agent? It's important to know that.
Yep. So no, I appreciate that. Does anybody have any other tips or tricks that you, and not only tips that you use to get people or get more transactions put together? Because most, if not everything I share with you is stuff I've learned from your colleagues.
Rob, from the lending side, I've found one of the things that most people don't realize, and I know we as real estate professionals realize it, and I certainly mention it to clients when we do the pre-approval letter specific to the offer, is the incremental movement in payments. So for every 10 grand more or less they pay for the home, their payment goes up or down about $56 a month. And when you frame it that way, sometimes they get a little less caught up in the number. Not that we want to have them do anything that doesn't work for them, but to lose a home over $56 sometimes is a different way to look at it than you're being pushed 10 grand. And I'm not trying to play numbers. I'm just, they're borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it's important to look at it incrementally. A lot of people are surprised. A lot of people are surprised when you explain that to them. Every $5,000 is $28. Every $10,000 is $56. They just, when you get caught in the number, you don't always look at it that way.
And Bruce, I want to compliment you on the delivery of that, because sometimes if you are like, high strung, hey, it's only $56 more, you feel like you're being pushed to do something. Yeah, but it's 50. But if you say, hey, the incremental difference is only $56, yeah. I think the way that you present it, leads the outcome, right?
And we also, we do the same type of thing. I mean, on your side, we set the expectations, and a lot of people, the first thing they say, what's the rate? And we always use a little bit higher than what the current rate is as well. So that way the client's a little more surprised. So for me, I just think it's important for client. This is just from my side of the transaction. Obviously, you have a whole different thing you have to worry about from your side. But from my side, the client being comfortable when I set expectations, when I talk to them with what the numbers look like, a lot of them don't realize that price really is impacted most by taxes. Because mortgages are mortgages. Every $100,000 is $560 a month. So it's really how many 560s are we eating up a month on taxes? So when I really break it down for them that way and keep it casual, but also educate them just like you guys do on the percentage of, we do the same thing. I'm just saying from a simple perspective as a real estate professional, as they're negotiating, it's, every 10,000 as we move off of this is $56 a month. So that way we could start here and just know what the expectation is as we go. The minute we get off that phone with them and maybe they present that offer with Janet or what have you, and they'll say, okay, well, hey, remember Bruce, hey, it's only going to, if we have to go up, it's another $56. We could just go up. It gets them to think in that concept of what the next step would look like, the same as it does with all your inspections and all the other things.
See, that's a good mortgage broker. So I wouldn't mind having my clients talk to you because that's the way you put that whole deal together, by having your clients talk to a good mortgage broker that will educate them prior to making an offer, so they know the numbers up front. Good job, Bruce.
And if I could just say one more thing about Bruce, is I had him talk to my seller on a deal that he was not the mortgage person. He wasn't involved in this deal at all. But I asked him to speak to them to kind of calm them about, an offer they had received. And in a matter of minutes, he had the complete history of that mortgage lender, the actual mortgage person who was involved in the transaction. And he was able to make my sellers feel much more comfortable about accepting, a deal that had a mortgage attached to it, as opposed to some of the cash deals that we had received as well. So I thank him very much for that, for getting involved and helping. And, so just a plug for our affiliates. They're always there to help you, whether they're involved or not.
Yeah, we have good people. You guys all do. I mean, obviously we're here. You have some other lenders that you work with as well. But, at the end of the day, for us, the value added piece is for us to be able to be there for you for anything. It's to help you get a listing. It's to help you get a listing. Obviously, we earn a living by writing mortgage loans on buyer side transactions. But anything we can do, anything we can do to help you get your relationship to a different level with a seller or a buyer, just call us. Call me. Call whatever. Thank you.
So, one thing I would, just mention is a lot of our transactions that we track, we go through a random bunch of lenders. And Bruce, you're privy, and you actually helped solve a problem for a transaction that wasn't ours, and Matt offered to take the loan, where one of the big national lenders required a form to be filled out for a 55+ community. And all the lenders that I know and rely upon, nobody's ever seen that form. And you were able to guide us on how to get that waived and still close the transaction on time. But if we were all to maybe just, make it a point to maybe try one of our affiliate lenders. If you have relationships, I don't want you to, ruin those relationships. But if you were to give one of our affiliates a try and just see how they do, it would mean a lot to us and the leadership team, because they do so much for us in terms of sponsorship. That would be huge. And I stand behind them. I never, get complaints that they weren't forthright, they didn't close on time. I mean, Robert, we never get complaints from any of our affiliates. I mean, that's the thing that Vettingham does, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, closing dates happen, when they're super busy, they pick up the phone, they solve the problem. That's the end of my plug there. And is Carlos Cruz still on? Or did we lose him?
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. You moved to a different box on the Brady Bunch. So, so Carlos Cruz is somebody I've known for many, many years. He was with another brand, worked on, ancillary products to make the process better. And you're one of the companies that really pioneered that. And right now you're working with a home warranty company. And you probably don't even know, but you sold 4 warranties yesterday to the Lazarses, because I switched my warranty on my home to your company, and I bought it on my investment property down in Fort Myers, because in 6 months I had to replace a fan motor and my hot water heater went. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get this punishment anymore. I'm just going to buy a warranty. So that also gives peace of mind, for me as a landlord now, yeah, it's a small investment, but I don't have to worry about all these little dramas coming up. And Carlos, if you want to just take a moment to, talk about our new relationship, and then I only have 10 minutes left. I don't want to go too long.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlos Cruz, like Rob said, and going back a while, we're working with him. And currently, I'm working with ARW, American Residential Warranty out of Boca Raton. And with Remax Select, we have a special deal that it will help your customers during the transaction from seller to buyer and moving forward after the house is being closed, to include a home warranty that it's going to protect from any possible losses due to a water heater, air conditioner, any major appliances, and also extend in some of the program to even electronic appliances, cell phones, or tablets, or computers in the house. It's a very comprehensive coverage, and it's available to all of you. Samantha Buckley already probably spent time, or you already know her, in the New Jersey area. As a matter of fact, I believe next Tuesday I'm going to be with her in one of the offices, I think in the Morristown office or Pinebrook. And we already working with a lot of the agents and promoting and giving the support. And also we have already somebody working on the Florida area as well. So again, that program is available to all your customers. And again, it can be initiated at a point of putting the house in the market. So that seller is being protected if something happened from that point until the closing, and then extend after that for the buyer of the house as well. And like I said, all that information again is available, and we will try to participate in more meetings in person in all your offices.
Thank you, Carlos. I'm going to ask Ron this question. Ron, do you ever have a buyer come back to you 2 weeks after closing and say, hey, Ron, what can I do? The air condenser just went, or the air conditioner just blew. And you're like, sorry about that. Welcome to home ownership. Has that happened to you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Now, wouldn't that be nice if you can say, hey, give America's Warranty, give Carlos a call or Samantha a call, because they did the right thing. I mean, it's so minute. And when that problem happens, you then become a hero, right?
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of us overlook that the home warranty program, and it's not that expensive. And I'm glad that you brought it up, and I'm glad that Carlos just gave his presentation, because I think it's very important, because it happens, I would say 60 to 70% of the time, I'll get a call maybe a month later and say, hey, the inspector said everything was working good. We had a plumbing issue. I don't know what to do. Now I got to find them a plumber, and it's cost them a little extra money. But yes, having a home warranty is definitely a great idea.
And last I checked, Carlos, I see inflation at 9%, but I didn't see your warranties going up. So don't tell the senior people there, but I know repairs on stuff is probably in many cases double what it was 3 years ago because of parts availability and labor shortages. So you do get a $50 commission if you sell a warranty, but that's not the reason. The reason is, probably twice a week, our leadership team gets a call from an agent saying, hey, we just sold this house, we just closed on it, and now the oven went, the air conditioning, the condenser, whatever it is. And if they didn't buy a warranty, they're like, can I go after the inspector? Can I go after the seller? And it's an as-is sale. Unless there was fraud, you can't. And I don't know of any cases where we go back to the seller and the seller says, oh, I'll buy you a new condenser. So I just think it's good business practice. And I'm telling you, both my brother who moved to Florida, he bought one on his house yesterday, and he has a condo that he's renting out that he used to live in Hoboken. And he had a problem where his air conditioning unit needed a $1,200 repair. I had like almost $3,000 in repairs on my rental unit. And I'm like, I can't believe I didn't do it. I didn't think about it. I tell everybody else to do it, but you forget to do it yourself. And if you don't have a home warranty on your own house, Robert Garver talks about how it's been a godsend for you, right?
Yeah, I have, for the $100, service fee, I've gotten 2 new stoves, a dishwasher, and a refrigerator through home warranty companies. And so I'm ahead of the game a lot.
You're a fan.
I'm a fan, yes.
Is a fan. So look, it's not to try to promote you, but I feel bad when, Ron gets that call and somebody says, hey, we've been in here 8 days and now my air conditioner is shot. If you sell a lot of houses, just timing, you're going to have things that go. And if we don't get in the habit of having that expectation, and, I'm getting close to the line of saying that everybody should at least sign off saying that they had the opportunity to do that as a requirement, because I feel horrible when somebody has to spend $2,000 and it could have been avoided if they just bought a warranty.
And the key, Rob, is that they have to do it proactively. We have to get our buyers to get a home warranty before something goes wrong in the house.
If you've been in the business for 2 years, you probably had somebody that has called you after that, right, Robert?
Yes,
And you probably feel like crap when that happens, right?
yes.
Feel so bad. You had to spend money on a new condenser, but that's preventable in my opinion. And it's not about the $50 fee that we get. It's about the service level that you get to customers. And Ron, in South Florida or Florida in general, is the insurance issue resolving itself for homeowners?
Yeah, it's getting better. Yes.
So like if I was on our team in Florida, I would even, set the expectation to, what insurance is going to be, and maybe even pre-shop to find out 1 or 2 people that you're going to go with. No skin in the game, but just do that so that you don't have any surprises. And this is all about delivering this concierge experience that's going to get you repeat business because you earned it.
Hey, Rob, can I ask Carlos real quickly? Does the warranty program work? Is it available for the seller while it's on the market?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
it's transferable, and it's a special program that put together especially for the Remax Select, where it start at that point so the seller has protection and then passes on into the new homeowner once the closing is done. And the other thing is there's only one phone call for the client. So let's see your air conditioning and something else in the house goes wrong. Call directly to AW. They will dispatch the professional to evaluate and assess the what is the repairs needed, if or need to replace the whole equipment. They will do it. It's only one phone call. They don't have to go and get their own plumber or air conditioning person. The company already has all that in place.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Fantastic.
So Rob, before you end, just give me 5 minutes when you're done.
I'll give you 5 minutes. I'm going to ask if anybody, when Maria's done, if anybody has any other tips that you want to share that help you, complete transactions better and provide a higher level of service to your, I'm going to limit it to buyers just because we're running out of time. If you could put it in the chat and share it with us, I'd greatly appreciate that, because all these great tips is a combination of, 500 awesome agents sharing ideas. So go ahead, Maria.
So on the flip side, I would like everyone to look at their inbox, do a search for Remax Select training, email, or in the subject line, look for something that says in-person training. Starting next Thursday, we are hosting 6 live trainings in the morning and in the evening. So what will happen is Rob will be going to several different offices with myself and Carly, perhaps, is from 9 to 11 in the morning. We will be working on farm areas with my out-of-the-box thinking for generating seller leads and combining Cole Realty with the first step. And then from 5 to 6 in the evening, we are going to be doing role playing, handling objections with Rob. And from 6 to 8, we will be running a call session with prizes. for anyone who gets appointments. So look at your emails, mark them on your calendar. We have 6 opportunities to have a boot camp, so to speak, for getting listings. It's also, like Carly just mentioned, go on the hub, look at the calendar, right there and then you can join also if you cannot make it in person, but I highly advise to come in person so you can register as well. But anyway, I hope to see many of you there. Any questions? Nope.
I want to hold on. I want to take this on overtime for a minute. There was a comment like offer to pay the seller's realty transfer fee or offer to pay something for the sellers. Like, to me, being a math person, I'm just like, all right, I would just add that to the offer price. But I do see, value in somebody saying, hey, you know what, they're going to pay my transfer fee too. It's not that it's $1,800 or $2,200. It's that, hey, they're picking up something for me. I want to move that offer to the top. Is there anyone that really likes that idea or dislikes that idea? Because I kind of think it's not really, I think it's a pretty good idea and it doesn't really hurt. Any opinions on that one?
I like it.
I've seen it done in coordination with like the mansion tax, where the seller and buyer agree to split that in order to get the deal for over $1 million house.
I mean, somebody said they had 3 offers accepted because of that. So, I mean, not only do I have a good gut on that, I think that there's evidence that it works. And being creative and being transparent is great. I think, do something different. And I had, for these Thursdays, we have our new KB Core trainer, Carly Smart's been going around. I've got incredibly great feedback from people who've attended that. And for all these workshops that are going around New Jersey, when we were talking about it at our leadership meeting, I was like, I want to make it at a time where I can personally attend because I'm passionate about helping people. I want to be in the front lines and see what's happening. So I will be at all of those in-person meetings in New Jersey. And in Florida, I don't know what schedule Fazia has me on, but I'm there all day Sunday, Monday, and I leave Tuesday night. So I know we're going to be doing some workshops in Southeast Florida. I believe I'm going to be doing some door knocking, probably some incredibly hot weather, but that doesn't matter. And if you're interested in workshops or door knocking in Southeast Florida, check your email or reach out to Fazia for a schedule. I'll make sure she gets that out. But I'm heading down there tomorrow night, and I'll be there all day Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So, and nobody else has any other questions, I'm going to wrap it up. Anything else? Maria, you have a question?
Have a great weekend.
All right, everybody, have a fantastic weekend. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions.
Yes, I do have a question. It's about the CMA, like teaching how to do the CMA. I really want to do the classes, but when it's going to be that?
Who's this on the phone? I just hear a voice.
This is Sandy. Yeah, because I'm driving right now. That's why I'm kind of nervous to talk and driving at the same time.
So I have 2 CMA preparation YouTube videos that I did. One with Audrey Potter on a real listing, and you can find them on our hub. I can share that with you, or you can reach out to your manager and she'll get you the link to the hub, but it walks you right through it. And if not, just talk to your manager. We can walk you through it.
Okay, thank you. No, I mean, last week when I went to KV training, I received the paper, which is like a new CMA. Like it says there we're gonna have a training for CMA in New Jersey soon.
Yeah, I think Maria is off, but that's the Core Present. And
Yeah, KV Core Present.
Yes, Core Present. So you want to ask your manager when that Core Present training is going to be going on, but that's going to be a game changer for us without having to go to Moxie. So just
Okay.
funnel that through your manager, and everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for sharing your ideas. I really appreciate it.